Hi there, and welcome to the seventh installment of the Everyone's Interesting podcast show. And again, I'm your host, Greg Alange. Thanks for joining me again. I am setting up this upcoming weekend to do an interview, our third interview for the show. That will take a few weeks just to get prepared and ready for the show. So I figured in the meantime, I would do another mini feature just to give everybody, something to work with or something that might be of some interest to some people. I think a lot of people are working real hard right now on trying to maintain their energy levels because I'm hearing from a lot of different people, friends, people I work with, about how maintaining their energy levels right now has been really, really hard. I do think it's important to mention real quick that I'm very politically active, but I am going to try my hardest on this show to never make any of the topics that we talk about, if it's possible, centered around anything political. I know that can be a problem, especially these days. One thing I did want to mention to people is that one thing that I am hearing a lot from folks is just that there's been, seems like almost like an increase in depression and also an increase in anxiety, worrying a little bit about, what's going on in our country and how things are going or how are they not going. I do think it's important that, we bring it back to the idea that 5 years ago, we were all going through, as I mentioned in an earlier mini feature, we were going through what I would call a collective traumatic event, which was the pandemic. And that a lot of times there was a lot of uncertainty and sadness and all of those types of things, and a lot of anxiety, worrying about, whether we were going to be healthy or not. So one thing that's really important is that this period right now may also be making a lot of people feel similarly in terms of how much power and control do I have over the things that happen to me every single day. This comes up a lot in my friend conversations, family conversations, and even sometimes in my work conversations. So I figured it'd be a good topic to talk about today. One thing I did want to mention real quick was just around the idea that when we're dealing with trauma, remember we're dealing with heightened levels of adrenaline, cortisol. These are things that we really have to be very, very mindful of. One thing I would absolutely suggest to people, I have a few suggestions for today. One is that in the current news cycles that we have, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're in a constant bombardment of information, how we process information, etc. That's a really, really tough thing, you all. And all of our systems with our medias are all wired pretty much to keep those of us who are even slightly involved to keep us sort of on the hook all the time, which can be really, really problematic because there's a lot of things happening. It's kind of hard to maintain a good level of energy when you're feeling like, oh, well, what the hell's even the point of me doing anything because there's so much that's out of my control. Remember that trauma has so much to do, you all, with feelings of being and actually being out of control, not in control, while things are happening to us that are either like super, super scary, or we might be getting hurt, or people that we know and love are getting hurt. So these are things to really be mindful of because they do actually start to impact our mood and the way that we do things. So one thing I want to be very, very suggestive to everybody who watches this around is to please be mindful of how much time you're spending watching news, and also specifically news punditry. If you're a person like myself who could watch MSNBC, I'm sorry if that's a tip of what I follow, if you watch at night, you could be watching, 3-4 shows in a row. I actually have been personally tailoring that down, that I allow myself an hour in the morning to watch some news punditry, and then in the evening I allow myself to watch 1 hour just so I'm up to speed with everything because there's so much happening at once. This is, I think, very important to want to maintain our level of being informed, but then also, making sure that we're not, unbalanced and really, really just like sitting there watching this, all of our media, waiting for things to happen that I'm not excited about or happy about. Something to really think about. The other thing that I would make a strong suggestion to everybody about is, especially caregivers, I would say, is please detach a little bit from the technology, detach a little bit from the media and all the constant news cycles, and actually find yourself a place in nature that you can go to relax and be in front of nature. I can give you a great example. I have a number of places that I like to go that are near the water. Water for me is especially rejuvenating. I feel like I can sit in front of the water and feel a lot better even within about an hour. I know some people like to go to mountaintops, to go to someplace to go for a nice hike. I think that's terrific too. Some people like to go into the forests. I think that's fantastic. A lot of people like, as I mentioned about water, going to the beach. These are all things that I would strongly suggest that you work into your daily practice of the things that you do, because being around nature sometimes can be very energizing. So it's something to think about. I also, real quick, just want to mention to people about the idea of doing something in your life that offers you some creativity. I think that when we're being creative and we're making things, we're creating things, whether it's, things, new recipes that some people like to cook or making. Some people like to do artwork and music, those types of things. I would strongly suggest getting into those practices right now, because really those things can also be very rejuvenating at times that people are feeling like their energy levels are low. So these are just some ideas just to think about. Nothing that's sky-opening. I'm sure there's nothing I've said here today that people are like, wow, I never really thought about it that way. I don't think that that's what these are supposed to be for. As I tell everybody in my work, when the world gets complex, I get simple. And that's something that I've always done in the work that I do. And I would say in this process too, it's very, very important that we think, all the stuff that we're dealing with is really more along the lines of a marathon, not a sprint. And you don't want to burn out, because otherwise, once you're detached and not really paying attention, that's when people start to really check out. And I don't know if I think that's a great idea either. There's a lot happening in our world right now. So anyway, I thought I'd give you all of that just as something just to think about a little bit. Please, as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to comment, certainly share if you think there's anything here that I'm saying today that might be helpful for anybody, because in the end, that's what these mini features are supposed to be about, is to help each other. I don't get paid for this or anything like that, and I'm more than happy to give this stuff away for free, even if it's just basic things that maybe we're sort of forgetting about a little bit in the minutia of just kind of working through our day-to-day events and things that are important to us. So also, my last thing is, please do this also if you're a caregiver. Make sure that you're doing more things in nature with your children, to get them away from the technologies, away from all the things that sort of keep roping them back in, and bringing them around nature will be rejuvenating for them as well. And that's something that you can actually do as a family, which is something that I always will really be pushing for caregivers to be thinking about, is spending a lot of time with the kids that you take care of, because they do need you too. All right, hope this is helpful. Please let me know what you thought of the video, and stay tuned for the third interview that will hopefully be coming out in the next week or so. Thanks for your time. Great to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.